How's it, everybody? Today we're talking about how to inspire others and actually be a role model and help others live their best lives in a positive way as opposed to a negative way. Because I've noticed that even when I want to inspire others, I want to push others to be the best versions of themselves, I tend to actually make it worse than better. And so today are some reflections on what I've learned about actually how to be a positive role model and cause positive change in those around you in the best possible way by lifting them up rather than pushing them down. With that said, let's get right into the video. So I have a problem. I can be an asshole. You might have this problem as well. We can all be assholes, right? Here's how I can be an asshole, and you might be able to relate to this. I get really excited when I discover a new way that I can be better, that I can improve my life, that I can push myself, that I can have higher standards for myself, whatever it is, live a more extraordinary life, whatever you want to call it. I get really excited when I start seeing those opportunities to better myself. And of course, I want to share all of those lessons and all of those things that I've started doing for myself and the ways I've pushed myself. And I want to push them onto other people. I want to say, this has done so much for me. I've benefited so much from this stuff. I'm going to push it onto you. Like, I know that if you do this too, you will be better too. It comes from a good intention. Obviously, I just want to share things that have helped me. But here's the problem that I've realized is that I do this in a very judgmental way. As soon as I decide that this is a better way of doing things for myself, I immediately jump to assume that it is a better way of doing things for everybody else. We get into an issue right off the bat. Something that is better for me might not be better for somebody else. And I'm trying to drill this phrase into my head of different, not better. Instead of whenever I notice that I do something differently from somebody else, it could be a recent change in the time of day that I wake up or the type of caffeine that I drink, whatever it is. I started drinking yerba mate more than coffee, and now I notice in myself, I have this slight little judgment, this tiny little judgment of someone who drinks coffee, even though I still drink coffee. And I drank coffee yesterday and I drank it for years before. Like, it makes no sense. But as soon as I start doing something differently for myself, I immediately start becoming judgmental to other people who do things differently from me. Because I assume, naturally I think, that the way that I'm doing it is better. But that is only better for me. And so what I need to keep in mind, and maybe if you have had similar difficulties with wanting to share the lessons that you've learned with your loved ones, your family, your friends, whoever it might be, you want to share these things that you've learned that have helped you to help other people too, and you're super excited to push them on them. We have to remember that it is, first of all, different, not better. But second of all, there is also a much better way to actually inspire, and actually, if you really want them to make that change, there's a much better way to do it than telling them. And that is being a role model yourself. The most effective way to actually convince someone to adopt some kind of behavior change is to just be a role model and demonstrate, live the benefits from operating in this way as opposed to another way. And so all you have to do is live your best life, love the transitions that you've made, and other people will notice that. And eventually other people will come and ask you, like, what are you doing? What are you doing differently? How can I learn from you? And then you can answer their questions rather than like throwing your beliefs onto them. Because we all have probably had experiences with our parents of parents throwing their beliefs onto us. You should do this, you should do that. This is the right way, this is the wrong way. And I think we can all attest to the fact that that doesn't really work. The only time we ever actually make a change in our lives is when we decide to make the change. When we realize this is a better way of doing it for me. And I decided that because maybe I saw it in someone else, but it's not because they told me to do it. It's because I observed it myself and I decided myself that I want to shift my behavior to improve my own life. There's a line I love from Ben Franklin kind of related to this topic, which is search for vices in yourself and virtues in others. Basically, we should be much harsher just with ourselves, or only be concerned with improving ourselves and not be looking for all the ways that other people are messed up or doing things wrong. Because then that makes you a judgmental asshole. It doesn't help anyone. Instead, you look for others' virtues. You look for ways in which you really want to learn from them. You really want to improve yourself. And then you can be a role model in those ways too. And you can understand how those have helped your life and live them yourself. And if other people notice that and they want to pick them up too, then you inspire them to pick them up as well. Instead of being harsh and critical and telling others what we think that they could do better, we can instead be empathetic, understanding, compassionate. We try to lift them up and like inspire them to be their best selves without telling them to do anything, but just being there and supporting and loving and caring for them. This is what like the incredible power of like a really compassionate parent, like a mom or a dad who just supports you and just encourages you and maybe pushes you when you need it in certain ways, but doesn't like overwhelmingly throw themselves upon you. As a personal reflection as to why I think that I have a tendency towards this, I think that in my mind, if I make this comparison between me and someone else, say that I drink yerba mate and they drink coffee, I make that tiny little comparison, and I immediately assume that my way of doing it must be better. Because there are two options in my mind, which are actually false now that I actually think about it, but it's like either it's better or it's worse. There's a difference in behavior, it's either better or worse. That's where my mind goes. And my mind jumps to it being better because I believe that if I think that it's worse, then I'm afraid that I will not be lovable by somebody else if I do things in a worse way. I need to always be doing things in a better way. Otherwise, I'm not worthy of existing, basically. It's like very deep and very meta, but I think at the very, very base of it, that's kind of the fear, is you have to believe that you're doing things better than other people. Because if I'm doing things worse than other people, then like, why am I special? I don't know. This is a major question that I need to figure out for myself, is like, what am I afraid of by doing things the wrong way, or not always doing things better than others, not always being like superior or above others. This is very connected with the last video I made all about conspiracy theories and being very careful with like claiming to have found the truth, because if we think that we found the truth, then we think that we're like better than other people. There's this same comparison. It's a comparison of belief rather than behavior, but it's you believe this thing and I believe this thing. I've got to assume that mine is better. Or I tend to assume, like I think we all tend to assume that if we believe something, we got to believe it's better than the other option. And that's okay, but we could also think of it as my opinion is different than yours, not necessarily better than yours. Just like a behavior could be different than yours, or a value could be different than yours. And instead of thinking that yours must be worse, we can look for the virtue in it. We can see how it actually could be beautiful and inspirational and admirable, and how I can understand why you think of it that way. And I can learn something from it, rather than being solely concerned with reinforcing my own righteousness. And that's it, y'all. This was mostly just reflection, but hopefully you got something out of it. If you want another video kind of related to this, like the conspiracy theory video I mentioned earlier, I will attach that right here. And feel free to check it out. I thought it was pretty good. People seem to be enjoying it. And subscribe if you would like. I think this channel is definitely moving towards like a self-awareness kind of thing, of just my reflections on my own shit, and hopefully any lessons that you can learn from it. Me on my journey to try to be the best man that I can be. If that sounds good to you, please subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Mahalo.